And good morning, Utsada, and namaste. Welcome to Hindu Lounge, Utsada,
Good
episode
morning,
number
Sai.
66.
Episode number
Utsada, you may be on
66.
mute because I cannot hear you, but that's okay. As long as you can hear me, I'm good. So,
Uh,
Utsada and
I
everyone,
think I
welcome to Hindu Lounge. Hindu Lounge is brought to you by Hindu Pact. Hindu Pact is the policy research and advocacy collective, an initiative of World Hindu Council of America. I am Ajay Shah. I'm the president of World Hindu Council of America, and with me always, as always, is Utsav Chakrabarti. Utsada is the executive director of Hindu Pact. And Utsada, welcome on this great day where India celebrates, what is it now? So we had this discussion, and we should probably actually have a poll on this. Is it the 25th Independence Day or 74th anniversary day? I will give you a chance to respond to that. I have my own thoughts, but Utsada, welcome. And today's topic cannot be more appropriate, Utsada. We are going to talk about a topic which is really, really intriguing. But Utsada, before I go to that topic, I want to welcome you, give you a chance to welcome everyone, and wish everyone happy India's Independence Day. And then we'll first start talking about why we are talking about this. Why are we talking about India's Independence Day? What is the relevance of India's Independence Day to people who are Hindus who live outside of Bharat? Some of them have never been to Bharat, and they're still Hindus. So with that, welcome to Hindu Lounge.
Yeah, I like the way you said, and they are still Hindus, as if it's breaking the rules somehow. That is something we need to work on. So yeah, I think the reason why we are discussing this is because even though there are Hindus all over the world who have never been to Bharat, to whom Bharat is a Punya Bhumi, a land where Hindu Dharma originated, uh, the history of that land is still relevant. So whether you are a Hindu from Indonesia, Cambodia, wherever, America, Germany, EU, somewhere in EU, South America, where there are big numbers of Hindus who have actually, in the last 4 generations, never seen Bharat, it is still important because that Punya Bhumi has a history, and that history is directly connected to the history of Hindu Dharma. So what happens physically in that Punya Bhumi is, to some extent, not fully, not completely, but to some extent, relevant to all Hindus around the world, and that's why we are discussing here on Hindu Lounge the relevance of the 74th year of India's independence from the British. I go with the 74th. Ajay Bhai goes with the 75th
No,
anniversary.
no, no, no. I go with 74th. I do go with 74th. The
Okay,
Indian papers that go with 75th.
okay. I'm with the 74th.
I'm with 74. So, hey, we have an agreement on this. What a nice day to start. I mean, two Hindus agreeing with one another, and that itself is a breakthrough, right?
Or especially with Ajay Bhai, because Ajay Bhai and me are always, we both have a contrarian streak in us. So
Like,
it's very
Uttara,
hard for us to.
it is good to have a contrarian streak as long as the end goal is good. But when it came time to pick the Indian national language, India's national anthem, India's national anthem, there was no such convergence of goals and ideals. I don't know how many people who are in our audience today know that for decades before, since 1930s, or actually in 20s and 30s, there was in that time the largest political party fighting for independence in India was Congress, and there was a disagreement as to what should be the song at that time, not independence, not a national song or national anthem, but what song should Congress be playing from the podium. And there were multiple songs that were in the contention. Really two songs, right? There was the Janagana Mana, which is the Indian's current national anthem, and this was the song written by Rabindranath Tagore. Right? And the other song was Vande Mataram, and Vande Mataram was the song written by Bankim Chandra. And these two songs were being considered for a presentation. Now if you go back some time in history, there were four songs that were contenders to welcome King George V, who was visiting India. And so when King George V was visiting India, Congress wanted to, at that time, welcome him with a song. There's a historic context to this because when he was visiting India, You remember they built the Gateway of India and all of that. But there was another significant event that took place with Soda, and that was the time when, at one time, British had partitioned Bengal. Now, King George actually revoked that partition because there were a lot of riots, there were a lot of protests against the partition. And when King George revoked the partition, the Congress government at that time decided to welcome him with a song. And they tasked Rabindranath Tagore to write a song. Now, Rabindranath Tagore wrote Jana Gana Mana as a song. And in that song, there is a statement, there's one stanza that calls out Bharata Bhagya Vidhata, right? Bharata Bhagya Vidhata is the loose translation of that, I guess, is that the ruler of the destiny of India, right? Ruler of the destiny of India. And he welcomes King George V as the ruler of the destiny of India. Okay, now remember, Rabindranath Tagore is, Gurudev Tagore is a big freedom fighter. But in that historic context, he welcomes him. Now, there is a backstory to this. And the backstory to this is that Rabindranath Tagore said that, look, I'm writing this song for as a tribute to God, who is the Bharat Bhagya Vidhata. And the king will think it's written for him. Now, we don't know, that's what he told his friends. We don't know, there's no written record of it, of course, but that is the history of Janagana Mana. Now, if you go back and look at the history of Vande Mataram, it is quite different. It was written a few decades earlier, and I'll get into it. Utsoda, tell me, please give me your comments on Janagana Mana, and then we'll roll back a few more decades and we'll talk about Vande Mataram and the novel in which Vande Mataram appeared, and that novel is Anand Mat. We'll come to that. But before we go to that, please, your comments.
So, Ajay bhai, there is two different, I would say, eras that are represented by each of these songs. Okay, Janagana Mana represents a post-British genre. The narration in the song, the way the song flows, it is representative of what the Indian population, especially the educated population of India, was thinking about after the British had already ruled India for a couple of decades, if not more. Actually, they had ruled India for more than half a century by this time almost, especially the parts of India where the song originated. The Vande Mataram song is actually a song that is representative of a far more grassroots and far more vernacular India. Because this song, even though was written during the British period, and the British by that time had already started consolidating their power in most parts of India that they had control over, but the song itself is derived from an era when the British were not in control of India. So it represents an era of pre-British Indian ethos. So it has far more vernacular and grassroots base to it. And that is where I think, as we talk about this further in this conversation today, you will clearly start seeing a difference between what Vande Mataram represented and what Janagana Mana represented.
So let's dive into it. I know that people are eager to know a little bit more about Vande Mataram, and what better way to start talking about Vande Mataram than to share the history of Vande Mataram and how it was composed. So that before we go there, I would like to walk you through the song Vande Mataram, and then I'll play a rendition of Vande Mataram, and then I will play the rendition that I personally like the most. And then we'll get into the politics of it. Okay.
Sounds fair.
And then we'll talk about the relevance of Vande Mataram for Hindus around the world today. Okay. So first, so that I will share my screen and I will walk you, and please jump in anytime. We will walk together. We will walk through the song that is Vande Mataram. Vande Mataram, as we said earlier, appeared in a novel called Anand Mat by Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay. So that here is the song, and let me enable my share of the screen. And as soon as you can see, here is the author Bankim Chandra. Let me move our pictures to the bottom so the screen is covered with the slide, and let me make this a little bit more readable. All right. So that this is the story of the song, and there's a really good book, and a lot of things that I'm going to talk about today is from this book, The Story of a Song. And I'll give out the reference to the book as time goes on. So here is the song. And I'm not going to sing it because my singing voice is terrible, but I'm going to recite it. Vande Mataram. Okay. Sujalam, Sufalam, Malayaja Sheetalam. Sujalam, Sufalam, Malayaja Sheetalam, Sashya Shamalam, Mataram, Vande Mataram. Salutations to you, O Mother. You're blessed with richness in water. Those lakes, rivers, sacred Ganga, Yamuna, Godavari, Saraswati, Narmada, Sindhu, Kaveri, the rivers. You're blessed with the richness of water, resources, plenty of fruits, and forest resources, flushed with cool air breezing from Malaya mountains, green with rice plants, O motherland, Vande Mataram. Right? The next stanza. Shubhra Jyotsnam Pulakita Yamini Fulak Sumita Drumadala Shobini Suhasini Sumadura Bhashini Sukhadam Vardam Mataram Vande Mataram. Okay. Where the nights are made joyous by sparkling lights, very beautiful bud flowers and the rows of trees, always looking pleasant, sweet speaking, giver of happiness and riches. O motherland, salutations to you. Okay. Remember, Bankim Chandra is saying this about Bharat Varsha, Bharat Mata, Mother India. And now, these are the two stanzas that are officially the national song of India today. But the real heart of this song starts in the third stanza. And here is the third stanza also. Koti Koti or Sapta Koti. Now, there's some dispute as to which is the correct version, but millions. Koti Koti or Shatakoti, Kantha Ninada Karale. 70 million voices or millions and millions of voices are heard praising you in Kalakala sound. Nishapta Koti Bhujay Drutakhar Wale. Many million hands have taken the sword for your protection. Okay. Ke bale bole ma tumi abale. Bahubala dharini namami tarini. Ripudalavarini Matram, Vande Matram. Okay. How can I say, O Bharat Mata, how can I say that you are a helpless woman? I pray to you, O Savior Mother, adorned with strength, the destroyer of enemies. Salutations to you, O Mother. Okay. There's a perception that Hindus did nothing when waves and waves of these invaders came. But Bankim Chandra quotes the history of valiant Hindu struggle and says, "How can I say that you're helpless, where millions and millions of hands took sword for your protection?" Okay. Tumi Vidya, Tumi Dharma, Tumi Rudi, Tumi Marma. You are the embodiment of wisdom, givers of Vedas, and those centers of devotion, power, and knowledge. Okay. Twahi prana sharire. You are certainty. You are certainly the life force in our bodies. Bahute, Tumi Ma Shakti. O Mother, you are the strength in our arms. Hrudaye, Tumi Ma Bhakti. O Mother, you are the devotion in our hearts. Tomarahi Pratima Gadi Mandire Mandire Mataram Vande Mataram. Your sacred image is in every temple. Salutations to you, O Mother. Okay. Remember, we look at Bharat as Bharat Mata, embodiment of goddess. The significance of that is that every Hindu looks at Bharat Mata as a murti in a mandir. Okay. And then he goes on to say, Twahi Durga Dashapraharana Dharini. You are the Durga with 10 hands, the goddess Durga. Kamala Kamaladala Viharini. You are goddess Lakshmi, the goddess of wealth, residing on a lotus. Vani Vidya Daini. You are the bestower of power of speech and knowledge. You are goddess Saraswati. Okay? You are Durga or Parvati. You are Lakshmi. You are Saraswati. I pray to you. This is where this song is no longer just a song. It is a tribute, it's a worship, it's a bhajan to Bharat Mata, which has given rise to Vedas, which has given right to Upanishads, which has given right to all the different schools of thoughts, the spiritual thoughts, whether it is the Hindu spiritual thought as an umbrella, which includes the Vedic thought, the Jain thought, the Buddhist thought, the Sikh thought, the Nastikvada, the Astikvada, all of these are this is the land, and this Bharat Mata is the Murti in the mandirs. You are blessed. Sujalam, I go back one stanza. Namami Kamala Amala Atulam Sujalam Sufalam Mataram Vande Matram. I salute you, O pure unmatched goddess Kamala. You are blessed with water resources, blessed with plenty of fruits. My salutations to you. Shamalam, Saralam, Susmitam, Bhushitam. You are peaceful, you are kind, you're pleasant and beautiful. Dharani, Bharani, Mataram, Vande Mataram. O Mother Earth, nourisher, salutations to you, O Mother. So that this is the song that we are talking about today. I am going to put a question in the chat and I'm going to ask our viewers, okay, who translated this song, who translated Vande Mataram into English. Okay, so let's put this So we just say that please follow us on Twitter. And now I'm going to just type in Utsoda the question. Who Let's type it. Who translated Vande Mataram to English? That's question number one. And question number two, which language and okay is the song in? Is the song Vande Mataram composed in? Both a little bit of a trick question, Sutsoda. So let me pose question number one. Who translated Vande Mataram to English? And question number two, which language is Vande Mataram composed in? All right. So, Utsara, your general comments on this, on Vande Mataram, and a little bit of anything you want to add before I have a surprise rendition of Vande Mataram that you may not have heard of, but I'll pass along the baton to you here.
So, what is important for today's generation to understand is that Vande Mataram is a very good example and a metaphorical representation of the history of the Indian subcontinent. Even though it represents only a very small time in history in the novel Anandamath. So first, I would request everybody to read the book Anandamath by Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay. The reason I want people to read that book is because the book presents one event or one set of events in the years 1770s. So it is a time when America was fighting for America's independence against the British. That's how old the book is. It represents a few years, and the reason it still manages to represent the entire history of the Indian subcontinent is because those years were one of the most stressful periods of our history, compacted into less than a decade. The reason I say that is because between the years 1769 to 1776, the region of eastern part of the Indian subcontinent, which is probably represented about 1/3 of the population of the entire Indian subcontinent, more than actually 1/3 of the population, faced massive Islamic torture, Islamic Mughal atrocities, faced an expanding European power grab between the Dutch, the French, and the British, faced one of the worst famines in the history of the Indian subcontinent that led to the death of 8 million people. I repeat, 8 million people just dying of hunger. Led to a cataclysmic collapse in the urban structure of that region. So cities and towns just vanished, and India became a rural, went back to a rural age in those 7 to 8 years. So that period between 1769 to 1776 was a compressed version of what the Indian subcontinent experienced since the 9th, 10th century onwards. And the book Anandamath is set in that context. And it represents the mindset of the Hindu subaltern, the average Hindu in the subcontinent in that time. So that is something that is very indicative of how people felt, not just in those 6 to 7 years, but in the entire subcontinent for the last 1,000 years. And the song Vande Mataram comes out of that context in the novel Anandamath. So, in a way, it is what our ancestors would have felt for nearly 25 to 30 generations prior to the song was written. And that's why this song is so relevant, and that's why this song, as we go forward, became so critical to India's freedom struggle. And unfortunately, after India achieved independence from the British, was put under the blanket, so to speak, if I can put it that way. So
Oh,
that's the context of what Ajay. So when Ajay Bhai was translating the song and narrating each of those lines, you have to remember that this is what people, average people in the Indian subcontinent, the average Hindu, I must say, more so, who were 80-90% of the population, were thinking in their minds vis-a-vis the context of their colonization. And read the song again with that context in mind, and you will see what people's mindset was in those days. Ajay bhai, back to you.
so Utada, the question is still outstanding. The first question was, who translated Vande Mataram to English? And the second question was, in what language is this song Vande Mataram? Okay, so those two questions are still outstanding, and I'm waiting for people to answer them. I don't see anyone answering. These are not easy questions unless you are really into the history of India. So I'm going to give the answers. So the first question was, who translated Vande Mataram into English? The answer is Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore translated this song into English. And the second question was, I'll leave the second question hanging for a little while. Second question was, which language is Vande Mataram? Vande Mataram is a song in which language? Right. So let me share this with you. When Bankim Chandra talks about Vande Mataram, he's worshipping Bharat Mata as a Hindu deity, as a deity of Bharat. Okay, this is this is Bharatvarsha. I okay. This is the Bharatvarsha that he is talking about. Can you see this? For the first time, we are doing actual physical props here. This is the era in which he composed Vande Mataram. You see this Bharat, Akhanda Bharat, Sampurna Bharat, which we ought to show during on the India's Independence Day, stretches all the way from today's Myanmar on the east to Afghanistan, today's Afghanistan in the north. Okay, and of course includes the parts that were separated out of India in 1947. That is the Bharat that Bankim Chandra considers to be Bharat Mata. Right. So the story is, Utsada, and I rely on this book called Vande Mataram. The story of a song, and that story, it goes into the history of how Vande Mataram was composed. And I bring this up, Utsoda, because this context is really important as we understand why Vande Mataram became such an important song. Bankim Chandra was actually a college graduate. He was in administrative service at the time, the British administrative service officer, and he was going from Calcutta to, and I hope I pronounce this right because I don't know the Bengali pronunciation, to his native town, Kantalpada, and he was going in a train, and this song just appeared to him. And he, in fact, in later life, he claimed that this is, the coming of this song is almost as if it was gifted to him by God. It's a divine song that he penned it, but he didn't compose it. Okay. So he's going through this train, he's looking at Bharat in all its glory, and he writes this song. The novel Anand Mat was written much after this song was composed. The song came before the novel. Okay, that is uh, so he so he so that is the history of the song. And then I skipped some of the parts of the history, but I want to mention that Anand Mat itself is this novel that is about a freedom struggle, right? So and you've read Anand Mat. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about Anand Mat, the novel itself? We lost it, Sudha, maybe? Oh, he's there. He's on mute. Right.
Anand
Go ahead.
Mat, yeah, correct. So the book Anand Mat, the novel Anand Mat, was written and published about 100 years after the events that it represents. And as I noted before, it represents one of the most stressful times in the history of the eastern part of the Indian subcontinent in the last 1,000 years. The reason I say that is because, as I said before, it was a it was a time. It was written about a time where the role of the Islamic rulers of Bengal in suppressing the people of Bengal, mostly Hindus in that time, the growth of the British, Dutch, and French colonial land grab in Bengal was directly overlaid by one of the worst famines and smallpox epidemics in the history, in the known history of that part of the world. So, that's the theme of the novel, and it represents a society that is under colonial subjugation, facing tremendous stress. And for today's people like us who live in a world of plenty, we worry about eating too many calories and what the next version of cell phone we are going to buy for our kids. It's something that is not in context. We don't understand the context of this novel. We are incapable of understanding the context of this novel, but this is what the novel represented. And this song is set in that in that context. And you will see in Vande Mataram and in Anandam Mat. And this part has been erased from the psyche of the Bengali mind today. Today's Bengal doesn't recognize Anandam Mat. Today's Bengal lives in a different world, and it will pay the price for it. And no doubt about that. It is paying the price for it. But today's Bengal doesn't understand what their ancestors went through under Islamic rule
Yeah.
first and then under the British. And that is
So
what
let me. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but let me give you this again. I go back to the song, the story of a song, and I just want to read a couple of paragraphs of English translation of the novel Anand Mat, so that people actually can relate to what you are saying in a more human term. There's just a couple of paragraphs here, okay? At the beginning of the novel, a human voice breaks the midnight silence of a dark, dense forest. Will not my desire be fulfilled? What price are you prepared to pay for it? The counter question was asked. My life and all that is mine. Your life is not much moment. Your life is not of much moment. Anyone can sacrifice it. That's a counter voice. What else can I offer? Name the price. The voice comes back, says, devotion. Holding life cheap, banishing the fear of death, devotion illuminates the frontier of human mind in a sudden upsurge. The center of such devotion is Mother, the symbol of motherland. That was the premise on which the song Vande Mataram gets incorporated in the novel. There's a description in the chapter 10, and again, I am quoting from the book, The Story of a Song. A description of this motherland occurs in chapter 10. Bhavanand, the main character, is in a different mood. He is no more a sannyasi, bold and inflexible. He is no more the ruthless general of the army. He isn't the arrogant man who a moment ago had humbled Mahendra. Amid the beauty of the land and water bathed the moonlight, his mind dances like an ocean in the tide. At the sight of the moon, Bhavananda turns gay and eager for friendly conversation. He's eager to talk. He makes many attempts to talk, but Mahendra does not respond. And then Bhavananda begins to sing for himself. Vande Mataram, Sujalam Suflam Malaja Shitalam Mataram. He sings with all his heart and soul, with great devotion and his masculine voice, so pleasing to hear, echoes and re echoes, and filling the whole horizon with its resonance, creates an indiscernible atmosphere. Mahendra hears the song is amazed. He cannot understand it. He asks, who is mother, fed by rivers, fruit bearing trees, and fanned by the cool breeze of the mountains? Bhavananda does not seem to pay attention to the question. He is immersed in the song. Without pausing to answer him, he continues, Shubhrajotsnam Pulakitayamini, Pulakasamita Drumadala Shobhini. Mahendra thinks that may be an invocation of Durga, feels it could not be. It's a description of a country, not of goddess Durga. Okay? At that point, Bhavananda wants to speak. The meaning of the song and the way of his life were not different. He explains, we do not accept any other mother. Janani, Janma Bhumischa, Swargadapi, Gariyasi. The motherland is our mother. Apart from her, we have no mother, father, brother, wife, or children, home or personal life. Sujalam, Sufalam, Malayaja, Shitalam. Utsada, the connection, the reason I brought this up is there is a connection between this song and not just the Hindu perception of what Bharat is, the Punya Bhumi, but also the connection between this song and Ramayana, where Sri Ram calls Bharat Swargadapi Gariyasi, something that is more beautiful, better than the heaven itself. That is what Bharat represented to Bankim Chandra. That is what Bharat represented to Sri Ram. And the reason we are talking about Bharat today on its Independence Day is because this land is not just any land. It is what Bharat represents to Hindus, what Jerusalem represents to Jews, or Bethlehem and Jerusalem represent to Christians, what Mecca represents to Muslims, and a lot more.
Or
Okay,
what Jerusalem represents to Muslims too.
and what Jerusalem represents to Muslims too.
Yeah.
So I want to play this so that this is so this is the rendition of Vande Mataram by no other than Rabindranath Tagore in his original voice. Okay, so that listen to this one. So that this is the rendition of Vande Mataram by Gurudev Tagore. So the
That
in
must be one
1930s.
of the earliest, oldest audio recordings I have ever seen. It's probably at least 120 years old, at least, I think.
That's right.
Yeah,
This is probably 1930s.
130.
Sorry, 1930s. Yeah, about 90 to 100 years old. I think it was rendered in 1920s or 30s.
No, you think so? I think it could be earlier.
It could be
I don't
earlier.
know. Yeah,
It could be earlier. Yeah. So I thought I'll keep this as a special treat for you. I know that when we discussed the preparation, I didn't play this, but this is an amazing audio. To get this
yeah.
old in
To have a
audio,
100-year-old audio, yeah, it's very, very interesting to.
and it's sung really beautifully. I mean, I had never heard Gurudev Tagore's voice till I came across this video, and I didn't know that it existed actually. So I was looking around yesterday, and I found it, and I was, he sings it exceptionally well. Uh, so I think Vannaji has joined, and she has some comments. So I'm going to just display the comments here. Vannaji, thank you for your constant support and your comments. So as I display the comments that Vannaji has given, uh, I want to so that continue. So that then there's this Congress meeting in 1930s, and in this meeting, the meeting starts with Vande Mataram, right? And the meeting starts when Vande Mataram meeting starts with Vande Mataram. There is an objection. Now, this has always been recognized as one of the most important songs from freedom struggle, and all of a sudden, there is this, you know, there is this protest. And the protest is that this song, Vande Matram, which is tribute to Mother India, should not be sung. And the protest comes from none other than Muhammad Ali Jinnah. Now, for those who are not conversant in history, Jinnah was a separatist who eventually succeeded in conniving with the British to break Mother India into Akhanda Bharat, into the geographic entities that exist today: India, Pakistan, Bangladesh. At that time, India and Pakistan. Okay, so this is what started the communalization of the song Vande Mataram. Remember, for anyone who is born and brought up in Bharat, their original faith is Hindu. Most of the people who are not Hindus were forcibly converted. And this song gave hope to everyone. But here is Jinnah, who is now saying that this song is not compatible with the Muslim beliefs. And the Congress formed a committee. The committee had Nehru, Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, and some other people. And that committee then came back in the same conference and said, okay, the first two paragraphs should not be objectionable to anyone. And they adopted the first two paragraphs. That was the beginning of the controversy around Vande Mataram, the song. Okay. Then we go into the later part. But as we go into the later part of the song and talk about the relevance of that today to the Hindus, we already talked about the significance, the religious significance, but there's a lot more. And before we do that, Utsoda, I want to play this song, the today's rendition my most favorite version of it, at least, as a Independence Day tribute to Bharat. Uh, why don't we do this? So that since you're back, why don't we talk about some of the political significance of that today? Why don't we talk about why the politicians today continue to oppose this in India, and why the global Hindus, all of us, should care about it. We talked about the significance of Bharat as Punya Bhumi, but it's a lot more, right? Bharat also represents hope. Bharat represents freedom. Bharat represents the good that is in humanity. And what I mean by that is, Bharat represents the freedom in spiritual thought. It has taken humanity thousands of years to get to a point in many parts of the world, not everywhere yet, where political freedom is respected. Well, if you go back to the history of Bharat, not just the political freedom, but also the spiritual freedom was respected. There are a lot of countries around the world where people have political freedom, but they don't have spiritual freedom. So that is the highest form of freedom is spiritual freedom. And Bharat Varsha, the land of Bharat, gave the idea that it's not just the political freedom, but also spiritual freedom that is important. Okay. Bharat also represents the evolution of thinking when that freedom is presented to human beings, whether it is in art, whether it's in science, whether it's in you know in in mathematics, whether it is any aspect, any sphere of life. That is what Bharat under the Hindu thought represents. It's not the geographic entity of Bharat, but the thought of Bharat. The Bharat, the soul of Bharat, that's what it represents. And when we as global Hindus celebrate the Independence Day, the political Independence Day of current Bharat, we're not just celebrating the political independence, but we are saying that at least a portion of what is Bharat, which is now free, is representing of all of these freedoms. And that is why we celebrate as global Hindus the Independence Day of Bharat. Your thoughts, Sudha?
That's absolutely true. And, you summed it up well. It is everything that is Hindu that we know today. And it's a evolutionary, quote unquote, Hindu, because Hindu Dharma is evolutionary. Most of it emerges from the land that is Bharat or in the larger Indian subcontinent. And that is why, and I started off with this. That's why Vande Mataram, which is representative of that land for the past 1,000 years, is so important for every Hindu, wherever they are in the world, to recognize and understand. And because the song itself is connected to the evolution of the Vedas, the Upanishads, the tragedies and the successes of the people of that land who followed the Upanishads and the Vedas, and are still, in some way representing the 7,000-year-old civilization. So that's why Vande Mataram is so important for every Hindu around the world to know and understand. And I if the current Indian intellectual leadership has some vision, my suggestion would be to actually translate it in other languages, not just English. Have the Vande Mataram be translated into Urdu, into Nepalese, into Bhasa, into Malay, and of course in Dutch and English and German and other languages where significant Hindu populations live in these countries. And they would also understand, they will, obviously translation is translation, and they'll never get the true essence of what, Bankim Chandra wanted to present, but they will understand the meaning of it, at least in these languages. And I think that will bring about a change in the mindset of peoples. Hindus everywhere, and even to some extent non-Hindus who have a heritage in Hindu Dharma. That is something I think is very important.
Absolutely. Let's get to the and this is very educational, because this is how the culture and the dharma and all of that gets lost, and we should pay attention to it, and we should pay attention to it not because it's a song Vande Mataram. We should not pay attention to it because it has to do with you know the history of Bharat or any of that, but it is a good lesson in how the cherished symbols of Hindus, whether it is the song Vande Mataram or whether it's the temple in Pakistan that got destroyed last week. How are these symbols lost? And the pandering that leads to that is an important lesson for all of the Hindus to understand. So let's look at some of
I
the
just want to say
contemporary.
something. I just want to say something in this context. What Indian Hindus today, when I say Indian Hindus, I mean Hindus living in India, have to understand and probably respond to is that after India was divided on the basis of religion, acknowledging the fact that Islam and Muslims have to have a separate land for them as based on their own demand, to actually cut down the song Vande Mataram and reduce it to one third of its original size to placate whoever shows a lack of understanding, a lack of vision, and a lack of self respect in the leadership of the country that did it. And by this, any Indian knows who did it, who were the people responsible for not making Vande Mataram the national anthem and cutting down Vande Mataram into the first two paragraphs, and even when it was being sung as a song. So you have to hold these people responsible, and history will be very harshly judging these people. I harshly judge these people for their complete lack of self-respect in this regard.
Yeah, absolutely. So that, and look, I mean, I'm going to share this window with you, and I'm going to show you a couple of how these things start. I talked about Muhammad Ali Jinnah, and I talked about how he opposed this in 1931 in the Congress Convention. But so that here is the take a look at this. Okay, this is the rationale that was given by Jinnah, and that is he said that when a Muslim sings the word, he is forced to equate his country with Hindu goddess Durga and Lakshmi, thereby defying the land of India. This goes against the concept of Tawheed, which is oneness of God, according to which a Muslim cannot supplicate to anyone except God. Now, I think that totally this idea of India is completely was lost on Jinnah, and maybe it was not lost. It was uh, he deliberately did this. His
No, no,
ancestors.
Ajay, let me interrupt you here for a minute.
Sure.
This is irrelevant to today's India, or this is irrelevant to the India post 1947, because this is what Jinnah is saying in 1931. And from 1931 to 1947, Jinnah not only said this, he worked and succeeded to bring forth a fulfillment of his vision. And that is why the India of that day broke into India and Pakistan. So this perspective of Jinnah's has no relevance, absolutely no relevance in the post 1947 India. To even cite this as an example of what Jinnah thought and is somehow relevant to the post-independence. Everybody knows what Jinnah thought, and that's why he got Pakistan. Why is
That's
India,
right.
India of today and in the India of 1947 and after, even looking at this? He got Pakistan because he thought like this. The India of 1947 and afterwards should be thinking like an India that has full respect for, because that is the India that Jinnah wanted to move away from, and he did. Why
Exactly.
do you still carry Jinnah with you? And that is the
Right.
point that people in India have to understand and work with today. I mean,
Well,
I would be totally supportive of Narendra Modi government if they actually make Vande Mataram, restore Vande Mataram back to its original form, and display it, play it every year from the Red Fort in Delhi. during the
Well,
night.
so that there's a really so that I should bring that clip up at some point, or maybe when I'm talking, you can bring it up. There is a clip of I think it was 2017 or maybe 2019. I don't remember. Sorry, from last year. It was from last year, Independence Day. Or it has to be last year. I'm trying to remember. Um, or maybe it was yeah, probably last year. I have to look it up. But this is a clip where from the Red Fort, Prime Minister Modi of India is saying Vande Mataram, and one of the politicians is sitting there. His name is Kejriwal. Is sitting there, only person who is not saying Vande Mataram. Because it somehow offends his sensibility to say that, or he loses some votes for saying that. That is how low a politician would go to not recognize his own national song. So that the reason I brought this up, I had a slightly different take from what you had. My take on this was, Utsoda, that regardless of it is not goddess Durga and goddess Lakshmi and goddess Saraswati. It is what goddess Durga, goddess Lakshmi, goddess Saraswati represent, and that is the strength, the prosperity of the land, the education that evolved out of this land, the wisdom that came from this land, the prosperity that the land provided, the strength that this land provided to its masses. Those are the ideas. When Bankim Chandra says tomari hi pratima gadi mandire mandire, a land representing this is in every place of worship. Now, some people may represent it as a murti. Some people may represent it in their mind, paint a picture in their mind. Some people may just look at the vacuum and and think of it in vacuum. All of that is acceptable. To make this a communal issue, Usada, is it's just not right. And I'm not saying this.
No, no,
I want
no.
to show you. I want to show you what Gandhiji said. Oh, hold on,
Ajay bhai,
Gandhiji.
only Hindus make these these jumping around in hoops to present things, because see, the Hindu Dharma and the relevance of multiple deities in Hindu Dharma and the evolution of those relevances requires a deep understanding of senses and metaphors. Okay? Hindus developed that over the last 7,000 years. That is why Hindus can think through metaphors. It is only Hindus who will come up with these metaphors because they have the ability to do so in the way you just said, Ajay bhai. That the Vande Mataram, the invocation to goddess Lakshmi in Vande Mataram represents the prosperity of mother of the land. Okay, only a Hindu can come up with this. No other monotheistic belief system has the ability to deal with metaphors. So, you just said you came up with this, and then you quoted Gandhi, another Hindu, to justify it. You are just moving around in circles within yourselves. The other side is only interested in Tawheed, and that is it. That is the deep red line that they have drawn. They don't have the intellectual ability to cross that red line, because they will be dead if they do. So why are we are the ones who move around in these small little circles and
So
clutching at
yeah, no, no.
straws?
I have a good answer for that, because I wanted to. The reason I brought this up, Sudha, is that a generation, two generations before, when Jinnah was a Muslim who, fought for Pakistan and division of India, but his grandfather was born a Hindu. And what I wanted to present here is that what gets lost, okay, in these kinds of conversions is the deeper meaning of what it means to be a Hindu in terms of someone who is born in the land of Bharat. I think it took only two generations from Jinnah to be born in a Hindu family.
Forget about Jinnah, Ajay bhai. Jinnah was still just a lawyer who was political with political ambitions and didn't have much of intellectual capabilities on his own. He developed it based on other people's inputs. You go to the people who were the intellectual godfathers of Jinnah, Allama Iqbal. Okay, the Ali brothers. Iqbal's great grandfather was a Hindu too, a Kashmiri Hindu at that. So
Yep.
Allama Iqbal was also the same product, and he was actually intellectually far more taller than Jinnah. Jinnah was just mouthing the writings of Iqbal and a couple of other Islamists in that part of the world. But Iqbal was the one who initially, before he was Islamized, was equally reverential to India and Mother, the India as
Of course,
represented.
he wrote "Sare Jahan se Acha Hindustan
Correct,
Hamara."
correct. And then he goes and he goes to Turkey and he figures out what Islam stands for and what caliphates mean. And he has a 180-degree turn and he becomes a true good Muslim and then demands Pakistan. And in fact, I mean, Iqbal was one of the people who actually wanted Muslims in India to migrate to Afghanistan if the British didn't leave India, because he thought that Muslims in India would somehow lose Islam under British rule for too long, because they were modernizing everybody with machines and whatever modern tools of the post-industrial revolution world. He actually wanted Indian Muslims to move to Afghanistan because he felt Afghanistan was a safe place for the Muslims. Imagine that. And actually, thousands of Indian Muslims did migrate to Afghanistan under the call of Allama Iqbal in the early 1910s, before the First World War ended. So, Indian intellectuals, Indian governments should stop using pre-independence era Muslim narratives from the Indian subcontinent to justify their inability to address Hindu identity. They should stop doing that. We should stop doing that. And we should make a clear call that after 1947, nothing stops India from being truly Hindu and truly
Yeah, I mean,
respectful
people who
towards
didn't
its
want
Hinduism.
because people who didn't want to be Hindus already got their motherland, whatever they wanted,
Exactly. So they didn't get their motherland. You don't call Pakistan a motherland of Muslims.
or whatever they call it. I don't know.
That is actually that is actually going to get you in trouble in Pakistan.
I said it on purpose, so
You
that
just broke Tawheed here.
I just said it on purpose. But this is what the pandering continues in India. This is what Nehru said. Now, so that I want to understand from you, what kind of leader makes a statement like this? Okay.
The kind of leader who is trying to somehow figure out a way to become the leader of a country that is beaten up, fallen on the ground, and has a long way
Okay.
to go.
So
And
here is, yeah,
this
no.
leader is
Here's the
trying to be the
statement.
prime minister as quickly as he can. And this is
This is after he was. This is after 1947 when he was designated prime minister already. He says it's unfathomable that some kind of argument has arisen between Vande Mataram and Jana Gana Mana. The real significance. Now, remember, in 1931, he already made a decision to sacrifice Vande Mataram. And then he goes around and quotes in 1947, he says that it's unfathomable that some kind of argument has arisen between Vande Mataram and Jana Gana Mana. The real significance of national anthem is perhaps more abroad than at home country. What is that? And then he goes on and says, past experience has shown that Janagana Mana tune has been greatly appreciated and admired abroad. It is very distinctive and there is certain life and movement to it. Okay, now
no he
I
no,
fell off my chair when I came across this quote.
Nehruji
So
was
that
thinking about the gold medals that Indians are going to win in Olympics and how the song will play
okay.
out.
So a lot of discussion in the Constituent Assembly in India that Nehru engineered, because Nehru was a kind of a politician. A lot of India was, how would this sound when it is used in a marching band? So that I can tell you that Vande Mataram, uh, you know, is evokes pretty much the same kind of feeling that Star Spangled Banner does in America. These are the songs with some significance, and to for Nehru to say that I want someone outside of India to listen to this and admire it, instead of saying that this is intrinsic representation of India and this is the heart and soul of India. The Indian national anthem is the heart and soul of India. He is saying that I want to know how it sounds to people abroad. If India has lost 70 years of independence, has to be attributed to something. It is this thinking, Utsada. And if Hindus around the world are today just beginning to have suffered and are just beginning to recover from that, is from this thinking. It is.
Well,
I
Ajay,
cannot.
we can talk about this forever, but for somebody who actually wanted to abolish the Indian army completely, and act and they went through 1962, where India lost so much land to China. Uh, Somebody which Nehru actually was very placative of. This is what you get. So we can talk about this until for another 3 hours, but we are actually
Absolutely. So
already
we don't have
1 hour
time. So
15 minutes, and
I know.
we
So
haven't touched
Usada,
any other segment. So let's
I'm going to
let's
close
move
this.
forward.
I'm going to close this segment, but I'm going to close this segment with the actual rendition of Vande Mataram, and then we'll go back to what you just said, which is the division of India. For people who are listening, stay tuned, because what there's a great segment that is coming up, and that is Utsoda had this awesome interview on Bharat FM with Deepika Zuchsi, and we're going to play the excerpts of that. You don't want to miss that. Utsoda, here is the national song of India on the Indian Independence Day today. Okay, we cannot not do this because this is a song. But thank you. This great conversation. But here is the Vande Mataram, the Sampurna Vande Mataram, as it should be.
वन्दे मातरम् वन्दे मातरम् सुजलां सुफला मलयज शीतला शस्यश्यामला मातरम् वन्दे मातरम् शुभ्रज्योत्स्ना पुलकितयामिनीं फुल्लकुसुमित द्रुमदलशोभिनीं सुहासिनी सुमधुरभाषिणी सुखदां वरदां मातरम् वन्दे मातरम् कोटि कोटि कंठ कल कल निनाद कराले कोटि कोटि भुजल धृत करवाले अबलापन माय तो भले बहुबलधारिणीं नमामि तारिणीं रिपुदलवारिणीं मातरम् वन्दे मातरम् तुमि विद्या तुमि धर्मा तुमि हृदि तुमि मर्मा त्वं हि प्राणा शरीरे बाहुते तुमि मा शक्ति हृदये तुमि मा भक्ति तुम्हारी प्रतिमा गढ़ी मंदिरे मंदिरे वन्दे मातरम् त्वं हि दुर्गा दशकहरधारिणी कमला कमलदल विहारिणी वाणी विद्या दायिनी नमामि त्वां नमामि कमला कमलाम् अतुलाम् सुजलां सुफलां मातरम् वन्दे मातरम् श्यामलां सरलां सुस्मितां भूषितां धरणीं मातरं वन्दे मातरं वन्दे मातरं भारत माता की।
And with that, Utsudha, let's move on to the topic of the day, which is this awesome interview that Utsudha you did on Kashmir. So why don't you take over and play this interview for us for people who missed it or people who didn't get a chance to see this? Here is Utsudha on Bharat TV speaking on Kashmir, representing Hindu Pact on the Kashmir issue. And so that I think I'm going to give you the full coverage. I'm going to turn off my video, and I think maybe you should do the same.
Yes, so I'm going to switch off my video, and we're going to play the interview for about 10 minutes or so.
Namaskar, welcome to everybody. Toichu Sarni, Neon Yani Deepika Zuchihun, Hat Namaskar. We are here for another episode of Kahani Kashmir Ki, and this episode is going to be very, very special for you and me and everybody because I have a very special guest here who is going to talk to us about the on in Jammu and Kashmir today, now. Right now, the present moment. So I am very, very excited to welcome Utsav Chakravarti to this conversation and to this show today. Namaskar, Utsav.
Thank you. Namaskar, everybody. Good to see you.
Very nice talking to you, Utsav, and thank you for your time today. All right, so here's what I'm going to start with today, Utsav. I'm going to talk background is right now, and Utsav, for everybody, for all our viewers, is the executive director of Hindu Pact. And Hindu Pact is a Hindu policy research and advocacy collective that aims to Hindu ethos and dharmic values of unity in diversity, plurality, compassion, and mutual respect amongst religions to policy and advocacy for human rights, environmental protection, gender equality, education, and interfaith dialogue. Mr. Chakravarti, I took this verbiage off of your Hindu Pact website. So this is a fantastic and a very, very broad mission statement. Tell me a little bit in practical terms, what does Hindu Pact do? And I'm specifically interested in your policy and advocacy aspect. Tell me a little bit about what Hindu Pact is all about in layman terms.
Yes, so thank you, Deepika ji. Hindu Pact has been conceived to primarily address issues concerning Hindu community in America and around the world that have not been addressed by other organizations, because Hindus have a lot of social organization, a lot of temple organization, and a lot of linguistic organizations. But not all of them work on the issues that concern the human rights of the community around the world, and things that affect the community from a policy perspective. So what Hindu Pact has done is, Hindu Pact has, first of all, our goal is to bring together people and do research on what benefits the Hindu community globally. And when I say globally, 90% of the Hindus live in India, but there are significant numbers of Hindus living in countries like Pakistan, Bangladesh, Malaysia, Indonesia, Caribbean islands, and of course America and EU. So for now, our focus has been, of course, America and specific countries like Bangladesh and Pakistan, where there is a crisis situation when it comes to the well-being of the Hindu community. As an organization that lives and works in the US mostly, Hindu Pact thinks that it has a vantage position to leverage American policy making and American global outreach to impact Hindus in these countries. And that's what we are trying. So we analyze American government's policy within America, outside America in terms of foreign policy. We find issues that concern Hindus out of them, and then we try to provide solutions and outreach through advocacy. That has been the focus. For example, I mean, we have been striving to get, this is the 50th year of the 1971 genocide in Bangladesh. So, and America played a key role in terms of creating awareness in 1971, along with India. So we have to do outreach in America to talk about it and declare it a genocide. It's very good to do it in 100 years. The Jewish community could declare the Holocaust very quickly because of the scale of it. Rwanda, Bosnia, you name it. So this is important for us as well. Similarly, when it comes to the rights of the Hindu minorities in Pakistan, on an average, every day, 3 Hindu girls are forcibly converted to Islam in Pakistan. Every day. And this is from sources that are neutral and not based, these are Western sources, Pakistani sources that are talking. The reality may be even worse. So why is that happening? And why is there no global outrage on it? Similarly, within America, there are initiatives and efforts being made by not so friendly organizations and individuals to the Hindu community, whether it is targeting Hindu Americans in college campuses, whether it is targeting Hindu Americans through legislations that actually enhance caste identity and use caste fault lines within Hindu communities. There are efforts being made to target Hindu Americans on the basis of laws being made in India. Some of these laws are wonderful laws, but they get vilified. The Hindu American community gets vilified and targeted in America, whether it is CAA, whether it is the Kashmir issue, for example. So these require not just outrage, but a strategic and tactical response that needs to be done in an organized manner. And that's what Hindu Pact is.
That's fantastic. And I'm going to ask you a couple of things about Hindu Pact, but now that you mentioned Kashmir, and since this is a show, Kahani Kashmir Ki, I do want to ask you a quick question. So recently, your organization co-sponsored an event on Capitol Hill regarding Kashmir moving forward post-abrogation of Article 370. Tell us a little bit about that event. What did you hope to do via the event, and what did you end up accomplishing?
So it was conceived. The event was conceived on a very short notice, and we did not get much time to prepare for it. But this August 5 was the second year anniversary of the removal of the temporary provisions of Article 370 and 35A. So we as an organization, along with Kashmiri Hindu organizations, including GKPD, Global Kashmiri Pandit Diaspora, conceived of this quick event that would encourage lawmakers, staffers. They were all at the Capitol Hill because of the bills that were being passed and the sessions that were happening. So on July 29th, we booked a hotel outside the Capitol Hill so that it's a private venue and we don't get protesters heckling people. That was and held this event. But the unique thing about this event was it was not just about the removal of Article 370. It was about how the removal of Article 370 actually gives a ray of hope for the entire region. And the reason it was held in that context is because we were approached by Afghans, women, who wanted to speak about the larger region and how there has been a geostrategic, fault line fishing happening in that region, and how that region has deteriorated in terms of security and security environment. And to them, it was like if you had not removed Article 370, situation in this region, the larger Afghanistan, Pakistan, India, China, that overall region would have been and so we thought that this is important for the world to know. In fact, the removal of Article 370 is not only beneficial to the people of India and especially the people of Jammu and Kashmir, but it's good for the entire region, because otherwise we would have been in a far worse security scenario in that region happening with the Taliban and Pakistan. Afghanistan.
Mhm.
So we had speakers from Afghanistan, we had speakers from Pakistan occupied Kashmir, along with from
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. So you are thinking of it as a multi impact solution, in that at least you are bringing voices from all the aspects to bear upon the issue, and then be able to voice that.
Correct. Because people in India fully support removal of Article 370. People in Jammu and Kashmir support the removal of Article 370. It is important to show and educate the world why it is not just good for India and the Kashmiris, but also good for the entire region. And I think there is no better testimony to that than the fact that Kashmir remains at one of the most peaceful periods of its history in the last 10 years, in contrast to what is going on, right across the border and in Afghanistan right now. So,
Yeah.
a lot of foresight credit must be. So I just wanted to give people an idea of what the interview was. And as things unfold today, Ajay bhai, if you notice, Kabul has fallen to the Taliban, and the president of Afghanistan has just been evacuated.
Yeah.
America, under the leadership of President Biden, I should say America under the non-leadership of President Biden, it would be really sad and tragic to call it leadership, has abandoned all its military equipments, everything in Kabul. In fact, America is right now begging the Taliban to spare the American embassy. This is from a country that actually just fell apart in its foreign policy and its execution. Truly a tragic fall for America at a global level. After today, I think America has reduced itself to the size of a small little island in the Pacific in terms of its footprint at a global level. It may have its
Well,
bases around the world, it may have its foreign policy projections, whatever it wants to do, it can keep doing it. But to the eyes of the rest of the world, America is a small island
Well,
in the
I
Pacific.
don't go that far, Utsoda. I think that's certainly I don't share that view. I think there's a political decision that a leadership at a given point in time in America made. There'll be repercussions, there'll be fallout, but America is too big to fail. It's certainly a temporary setback for American foreign policy, but if past is any indication, America will bounce back even stronger. There are lessons to be learned here. It will take maybe several years to learn the lessons and to recover from it. But remember, America has inherent strengths. The idea of America has inherent strengths, and America will bounce back. The fundamental idea of America, the fundamentals of American democracy, the fundamentals of the way American people think is strong enough to overcome mistakes that are made by a particular politician at a given point in time. Now, it may take longer, but remember, this is a country that recovered from the sins of slavery, and it also recovered from Vietnam
I
War.
agree with
And
that.
so,
I agree with that. But
I
at
think
this
you're a
point
little
of
bit too
time,
harsh. I
no,
think
at
you're a
this
little bit
point of
too
time,
harsh on America, but America will recover.
no, I don't disagree with that. You should listen. You should listen to what I said. I did at this point of time, America is.
Well,
I didn't
I,
say that 2 years from now not going to be different.
yeah,
But
but it's a political setback. I mean, it's a
it's a
temporary political setback.
it's a
I
geopolitical setback, not just political.
Yeah, but
I don't think it's a setback politically within America. Most Americans don't even care. So I don't
look,
think
I
that's the
mean,
setback.
even in geopolitical terms, America has a lot of levers it can pull. It is a
I think it gave up those levers literally
some of it,
overnight.
some of it.
Yeah.
Look, I mean, it gave up some of it, but it. We will keep this debate for a future date
Maybe
when we
we should
talk
we should
more
have a
about
debate on
Afghanistan.
this month from now or 3 weeks from now, because the fallout of what happened today and the way it happened. So everybody knew that there is going to be a change in Afghanistan. Everybody knew that for the last 3 years, 4 years, even when Trump was there. But the way it happened is what I'm talking about, and that is
Yeah,
something that
well,
will go down in history in infamy, if I can put it mildly.
all right. So that I want to bring your attention to the Hindu Pack Gala that is happening on 22nd of August. That is next week, and we hope that everyone can join this gala. We are going to talk about the harmony in a multicultural society, the Hindu way. We have now confirmation that Congressman Steve Chabot is going to be there. We have representatives from various faiths who are going to talk about how Hindu Dharma has facilitated the harmony and how it has facilitated these people from multiple faiths to live in harmony. We are also going to feature the history of Hindu Pact in last 1 year and 4 months, I guess, as how old we are now. And we are going to talk about a Chingari project that Utsoda just mentioned. We are also going to have a Bharatnatyam rendition of Bhagavad Gita. So we are it's going to be a fantastic program. Please go to the URL that is on your screen, and so that if you can type in the URL in the caption to registration URL that we have on the screen. It's tinyurl.com/hindupatgala August 2021, and please click on that link. Please sign up for the gala, and we all look forward to seeing you at the gala. Usada, the next on our list is this special news item that you're going to talk about quickly. So please talk about August 14th. Why is it significant, and what did India just do about August 14th?
So this is the news of the week. I won't call it happy news of the week, because it's not happy, but it is important, very important news, because for the first time after 74 years, 75, if you are going to put it that way, India declared August 14th as Partition Remembrance Day. And when I say Partition Remembrance, it is in remembrance of the millions of people who were killed and millions more who were displaced by just one cause, and that is the need and the complete adamant demand of the Muslims of the Indian subcontinent, big chunk of them, to have a separate country in the name of Islam. So that one demand was the cause of innumerable deaths, both Hindus and Muslims, mostly Hindus and Sikhs, but a lot of Muslims as well, and in untold suffering to the people of the Indian subcontinent, numbering in millions. And we are still to recover from it. It will take us maybe another century to recover from it, if at all we recover from it. And that's why we are very thankful. It's great that the government of India has declared August 14th as Partition Remembrance Day, and that's the news of the week.
All right, thank you, Utsoda. And the next one is our regular Hindu Seva Charity Act of the Week. Here we go. So the Hindu Seva Charity Act of the Week, once again, with the COVID cases in India still at around 400 deaths a day, we still want to say that please, there's still about 40,000 cases being reported. 20,000 of them, or half of them about, are from the state of Kerala. Please go to vhp-america.org and click on the donate button and support COVID-19 effort. This week, I'm also going to request that people who have already donated for COVID, who want to donate for some other cause, please go to hindupact.org, click on the donate button and donate to Hindu Pact. We are in our fundraising season. We have a gala coming up next week. So please go to Hindu Pact, HINDUPACT.org, and click on donate button to donate to Hindu Pact. Usoda, with that, the Hindu good news of the week. And this is a news item that came a couple of weeks ago, or 3 weeks ago rather, But it's really good news, and that is religious factors decrease death anxiety in older adults who are practicing Hindu Dharma. Okay, so that this is a scientific study, and it was reported by Hindu Existence. And a study among devout Hindus suggests that religiosity and belief in reincarnation help older adults cope with death anxiety. Okay, a lot more has to be discovered about Hindu Dharma, and correlating Hindu Dharma with present day science is something that a lot more has to be done about. But at least people are starting this study and they're correlating, and this is understandable. Hindu Dharma gives people hope, and that hope reduces the anxiety. And anything that everyone and everything that comes into existence one day you know has to leave this earth. But the anxiety is much less among Hindus because there's hope in reincarnation. There's a hope in, achieving moksha and nirvana. So that is Utsada, the good news of the week. And finally, Utsada, um, I think we have a couple of nominees for the Hindu phobe of the week. Do you want to go to the next one, or and I have one, and you can have one as well? So I
We
think
should just go with one. Ajay bhai, you go with yours. I think
uh,
you
also that this happened last week in Bangladesh. I don't know how many people saw this, but we talked about the temple destruction in Pakistan last week. This did not get that much attention. On August 8th, entire village, Hindu village of Malikapara in the Shiali village of Rupsha, Upzilla of Khulna district of Bangladesh. There was a vandalism, and so that I am going to show you what happened in that village. So bear with me for a second while I enable this one particular share that will, show people what happens where idea of India is no longer prevalent. So here we go. I'm going to share it again with sound and take a look at this. So that this resolution is poor, so I'm not going to make it bigger, and I'm going to play from the beginning. So this was the vandalism of 4 big temples, all the murtis of 7 temples, 10 houses, extensive looting, including looting of the cows. And this is what happened to the mandir and the murtis. Actually, the murtis were beheaded. So I didn't play the more drastic and more dramatic videos. These are the videos of Hindu murtis that were beheaded in this village, and this is the state of Hindu Dharma in Bangladesh today. This is what happens, Sada, when the idea of India is no longer there.
and come to think of it, this is the land that 150 years ago gave the novel Anandamath, and this is the land where another 100 years ago, so 250 years ago, the Hindus were singing songs to Mother Goddess and the land and Lakshmi in after 1,000 years of slavery. and after a famine and smallpox, epidemic that killed 8 million people. So from that point to this point where little Hindu temples in small villages are being destroyed and nobody gives a damn
There were
is a
23
journey.
views on this. There were 23 views.
Yeah. So this is a journey that we have to, and we are responsible for this. This is happening in our lifetime, and this is happening at a time when the world is so well connected. So somebody has to be, history will hold somebody responsible for it, and it will be our generation. So think about it, and we all have to sit back and figure out what needs to be done and how quickly it needs to be done. Because what Hindus lack is not understanding; they lack action, and we lack action. It's us. So that's my point to end with today.
Thank you, Soda. Soda, as always, thank you very much. This was a really, I like this show because we talked about an issue that was really close to my heart, and that is the story of a song, Vande Mataram. Soda, thank you very much for indulging me and bearing with me as we went through this topic that I think I think people would like. People would eventually, when people start watching it, would like it.
I
Um,
yesterday night when we were preparing, I told Ajay Bhai that Ajay Bhai was worried we will not have enough material as always to do the show, and I said, "Don't worry, Ajay Bhai, we have material for 2 hours, and we are almost
Utsada,
ready."
it took till 4 o'clock in the morning to get there. Actually, 5 o'clock, but who's
I
counting?
tell you, Ajay Bhai,
Uh,
even if you did not work for another 3 hours on that, you would have had still
Probably,
material for
you're probably
entire
right.
1.5 hours. Now we are
Eh,
almost 2 hours, so I think we
well,
have to figure out a way to cut
this
down
is
our show to an hour.
this made it a little bit more informed. Elsada, thank you very much. I appreciate you all that you do. The great interview that you had with Bharat FM. I want to thank everyone for joining us. This is Hindu Lounge. Hindu Lounge is brought to you by Hindu Pact, Policy Research and Advocacy Initiative of World in the Council of America. I'm Ajay Shah, and with me, as always, is Utsoda Utsav Chakrabarti, who is the Executive Director of Hindu Pact. And we come live every Sunday at 11 o'clock on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter. Please join us next week as we continue this journey. Thank you and namaste. This will be available on demand now on all our social media channels. So please join watch the parts that you have missed. We know there are a lot of competing events, but I think we provide here something that is unique. I don't think anyone did a show on Vande Mataram on this particular Independence Day. So if you want to look at a unique content in context of contemporary American Hindus, Hindu Lounge is a place for you to be on Sunday mornings. Thank you, Sada. Thank you, everyone, for joining and your comments. And the answer to the question, what language is Vande Mataram written in? Vande Mataram is actually a Sanskrit song. It is written in Bengali. But the song, actual language of the song is mostly Sanskrit. Okay?
Yeah,
So that's the answer
it
to
is
the
also a
trivia
good
question.
example of how languages in India 200 years ago had much more Sanskrit in it. So Vande Mataram,
Exactly.
when Bengalis sing it, sounds Bengali even though it's actually Sanskrit. So
Yeah.
that's how close the languages were to Sanskrit even 200 years ago. So
Yeah.
I mean today I'm pretty sure if you hear A.R. Rahman's Vande Mataram, it's Urdu. So that's where we are.
Yeah. Well, Sada, thank you again and namaste. And while
Namaste.
we go, we'll keep the streaming on, we'll turn the videos off, and we'll play a special tune created just for us for this episode of the show on this special Independence Day by Decibels. So, Decibel music coming up as we close the show. Thank you again, Utsada, and namaste.
Namaste.
And over to Decibel's fantastic music.